They said we wouldn't make it, but here we are, episode 2, boys. Good evening to you, James.
Good evening, Brandon.
Good evening to you, Ben.
Good evening.
My name is Bran Reid, and good evening to you, listeners. This is the Graveyard Broadcast, coming to you pre-recorded remotely from our lockdown homes in Melbourne, Australia. Today, to celebrate our second episode, we're going to be bringing you 2 spooky stories from our home country of Australia. I'll be talking about a pilot and plane that went missing in the late 70s, possibly abducted by aliens. And Ben?
And I'll be talking about the mythical creature called the Bunyip.
Alright, before we jump in, some spooky news. Since the last episode, our city has gone into a mandatory face mask mode, aside from several exemptions, when outside of the home. And why is that spooky? Well, now you can't tell when someone's sporting an evil mustache, and I don't know who to trust anymore. But no, like seriously, there's an actual cult starting of conspiracy theorists who are like non-believers in the virus, and that 5G is bad, and that we shouldn't have to wear face masks, etc. And I just thought this would be funny to mention because they're led by an ordained pagan minister / exorcist / psychic. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because they're filming themselves confronting retail workers and police about how they have rights and don't have to wear masks, forgetting that not only do they have rights, but they have responsibilities to their community. And here at the Graveyard Broadcast in 3:30, we believe in stopping the spread, so please do what you can to help with that. Wash your hands. And I'm all for conspiracy theories, but don't attack my faster internet speed. Cool. So...
Also, who the fuck said we wouldn't make it?
I don't know.
I
just
did.
assumed they'd say it. Yeah, Ben said it.
Ben's always
I
doubting
said it
us,
in the
man.
first moments of the beginning episode where Brandon goes, "This is going to be shit." And I went, "Yep."
I guess it was us that did it then.
You boys been up to anything spooky in the last week? Watched
Dealing
anything?
with those Karens at work.
Yeah, having to go outside just in general.
Yeah, I've been
Actually-
rewatching... Oh, go.
No, you go first.
Okay. Oh, I've been rewatching Hill House, and since the first time I watched it, I've read the book, so I'm picking up on a lot of cool references and stuff, and I do really recommend anyone who hasn't watched The Haunting of Hill House to get on it.
That's something I still need to watch. Every time you talk about it, I'm
So
like, I really
excited.
want to watch it.
I'm so excited for season 2 coming out later this year.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be so great. The Haunting of Bly Manor. It's going to be perfect.
Can't relate.
Based on The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, which I just think is a scarier source material, so I'm keen. All right, James, what was your actually...
Yeah, so like I was out with a girlfriend the other night, and like she used to live in a haunted house, just as reference. And like every time I hear a noise or I look at something, she gets like freaked out because I can't explain it. So the other night we're just hanging out, and like I can hear like this banging on this fence, but there was like no explanation to it. She's like, "What are you staring at?" I'm like, "I'm trying to look for something," and she just ran inside the car, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's a bit spooky."
Cool.
Probably the wind though, but she
Who
got
knows?
scared.
Maybe it was a
No,
bunyip
I'm going to say it's a demon.
demon. That's the only logical explanation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right. It's always a demon. Pesky motherfuckers.
All right, so to decide who's going to go first today, I thought we'd flip a coin, Ben, as in we get Siri to flip a coin. So do you want heads or tails, buddy?
Of the heads.
Heads? All right. Heads or tails?
It's tails this time.
So I'm going first.
Fucking bitch.
All right.
Cool.
Fuck you, Siri.
Do you want to talk about social medias before I start this story?
Oh, yeah. Since our first episode, we've now set up social medias for everything. So the Graveyard Broadcast now has a Instagram, a Twitter, and a YouTube channel. Our ats for Insta and Twitter are at Grave Broadcast. We're uploading all of these episodes onto YouTube. And any visuals we mention in the episodes go on our Insta.
Yeah, we'll remind you at the end of the episode what those ats are, and we'll put them in the episode description, so they'll be easy to find.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll just jump into it. James doesn't have a story this time. He's the listener of the group, so he's on your team, listeners.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just get into it then. Saturday evening, October 21st, 1978, Steve Roby was an air flight service controller in Melbourne. Roby was going about his usual duties, directing aircrafts in and out of the airport, making sure the aircraft flow was running safely and efficiently, when a radio transmission came through from a lone pilot crossing the Bass Strait south of Melbourne. The pilot, a young man named Frederick Valentich, was rattled and confused, asking about the second aircraft flying above his own. Roby didn't understand. There were no other aircrafts. Roby and Valentich discussed further to try and figure out what was going on, not yet knowing this would be the last conversation anyone would ever have with Valentich. This is the disappearance of Frederick Valentich. All right.
Spooky.
So, first, I'm going to tell you a bit about Frederick. Frederick Valentich was a 20-year-old pilot with about 150 total hours of flying experience. He held a Class 4 instrument rating, which authorized him to fly at night, but only in visual meteorological conditions, which by definition varies from country to country, but has to do with like the visibility, cloud ceilings, and cloud clearances, so there'd be certain limits that are set for him.
Yeah.
Valentich's dream was to join the Royal Australian Air Force and was a member of the Royal Australian Air Force Air Training Corps. He studied part-time to become a commercial pilot, however had a poor achievement record, having twice failed all 5 commercial license examination subjects, and as recently as the previous month had failed 3 more commercial license subjects. He also had a few flying incidents, including once straying into a controlled zone in Sydney, for which he received a warning, and twice deliberately flying into a cloud, for which prosecution was being considered. Several months prior to the events of that spring evening in 1978, he met a 16-year-old girl named Rhonda Rushton through a friend. Rushton today says it was pretty much love at first sight. Rushton would take her on flights, frequently soaring through the skies, so you know that whole Aladdin, A Whole New World shit. It's adorable. And
Cute.
yeah, and the night before the incident, Fred and Rhonda were planning on doing that flight together. The flight was just a small 232-kilometer run to a small island northwest of Tasmania called King Island. And for people who don't know Australian geography, Tasmania is basically that little, almost triangular island southeast of the mainland.
We don't talk about it too much.
Disconnected from the rest of it.
Yeah, is it part of the country? Up for debate. No, but it's not a far flight. So basically, you got Tasmania, and in between there's like a lot of smaller islands. There's one just northwest, King Island. It's a decent size. That's where he was headed. And then northeast, one called Flinders Island, which I'm only bringing up now because it'll come up again later. So Rhonda said that various things happened on the day that resulted in her not being able to go for the flight. They had recently become engaged before the incident had occurred, and the ring was still even on lay-by at the time, which basically means they're paying it off before they can get it. Like, you start putting money towards it, and they put it on hold for you. I don't know if it's still a thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's still a thing?
I think it's still a thing.
I mean,
And
I
it
do
was
it at
just
work,
like-
so...
Oh, you do it still? We all like Afterpay and stuff. I wasn't sure if we've kind of just moved on. Another fact about Frederick, which is major ammunition for skeptics, is that it is a known fact, as stated by his father, that Fred was an avid believer in UFOs and did already worry about being attacked by them. Before we delve into what happened that night, I wanted to say I found an amazing journalistic radio program on this incident from the ABC Radio National that only aired in June of last year. The focus of the program isn't so much on the event itself, but, quote, what the mystery of Frederick's disappearance says about how we live with the past and the power and limits of stories themselves. It's got interviews with Steve Roby, the air traffic controller, Rhonda Rushton, Valentich's girlfriend at the time, as well as various other UFO investigators and people involved. It's a really good program, and I'll link it in the episode description for anyone who wants to do a deeper dive. I was gonna try and get, they did an awesome transcription of the radio event that was well acted, and I was trying to get permission to use that, but like the emails just got too complicated, and I just said, hey, we'll do our own one. It's not going to be good, but that's how James can contribute to the episode. He can be one of them, I'll be the other, and we'll try and recreate the radio conversation. So hopefully it's not shit.
It will be.
So Valentich left Moorabbin Airport at 6:19 p.m. on October 21st, 1978. He radioed Melbourne Air Traffic Control at 7:06 p.m. and was in contact with Steve Roby until he said his last chilling words at 7:12 p.m. So I'm going to get James, I'm going to send you the transcription and we're going to try and recreate the conversation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for this.
No.
Because James is such an excellent reader if you listened to episode 1.
Yeah, I'm amazing. You know, I read at a 6th grade level. Okay, Ben. You guys won't be able to see my sexy face anymore once I close it down. Sorry, Ben. I know you're sad.
Oh yeah, I'm bawling tears over here.
Yeah, he actually is,
Absolutely
though.
devastated.
You can see him crying.
Yeah, I'll post a picture of myself crying to social media. Check it out.
And then you'll see why we bully Ben.
All right. So I'm going to be doing what Frederick Valentich said. James is going to be saying what the radio controller, Steve Roby, said. Air traffic controller. All right. Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5,000?
Delta Sierra Juliet, no known traffic.
Delta Sierra Juliet, seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000.
Delta Sierra Juliet, what type of aircraft is it?
I cannot affirm. It is 4 bright, it seems to me like landing lights.
Delta Sierra Juliet, this statement affirms to the pilot that the person on the ground heard his transmission.
Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. The aircraft has just passed over me at least 1,000 feet above.
Delta Sierra Juliet, roger. And it is a large aircraft. Confirm?
Unknown due to the speed it's traveling. Is there any Air Force aircraft in the vicinity?
Delta Sierra Juliet, no known aircraft in the vicinity.
Melbourne, it's approaching now from due east towards me.
Delta Sierra Juliet.
Then there's open microphone for 2 seconds. It just noise. Delta Sierra Juliet, it seems to me that he's playing some sort of game. He's flying over me 2-3 times at a time at speeds I could not identify.
Delta Sierra Juliet, roger. What is your actual level?
My level is 4,500, 4500.
Delta Sierra Juliet, and confirm you cannot identify the aircraft.
Affirmative.
Delta Sierra Juliet, roger. Stand by.
Melbourne, Delta Sierra Juliet, it's not an aircraft. It is open microphone for about 2 seconds. The duration measured as 3 seconds. No information appears to have been removed from the tape.
Delta Sierra Juliet, Melbourne, can you describe the aircraft?
Delta Sierra Juliet, as it's flying past, it's a long shape. Open microphone for 3 seconds. Cannot identify more than that. It has such speed. Open microphone for 3 seconds. It is before me right now, Melbourne.
Delta Sierra Juliet, roger. And how large would the object be?
Delta Sierra Juliet, Melbourne, it seems like it's stationary. Then someone has determined that this word should be, it seems like it's chasing me, using filtering. So yeah, it seems like it's chasing me is what he actually said. What I'm doing right now is orbiting, and the thing is just orbiting on top of me also. It's got a green light and sort of metallic, like it's all shiny on the outside.
Delta Sierra Juliet.
Delta Sierra Juliet, open microphone for 5 seconds. It's just vanished.
Delta, Sierra, Juliet.
Melbourne, would you know what kind of aircraft I've got? It is a type of military aircraft.
Delta, Sierra, Juliet. Confirm the aircraft just vanished.
Say again?
Delta, Sierra, Juliet. Is the aircraft still with you?
Delta Sierra Juliet, it's not open microphone for 2 seconds. Now approaching from the southwest.
Delta, Sierra, Juliet.
Delta Sierra Juliet, the engine is rough idling. I've got it set at 23, 24, and the thing is coughing.
Delta, Sierra, Juliet. Roger. What are your intentions?
My intentions are to go to King Island. Melbourne, the strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. Open microphone for 2 seconds. It is hovering, and it's not an aircraft.
Delta, Sierra, Juliet.
Those were his last words before we got 17 seconds of open microphone with a very strange pulse noise is audible. Sounds like a metallic scraping noise. And this is when I'm going to cue you guys to listen to the audio I've sent because I have the actual audio of the noise that played.
Damn.
Jesus.
And terrifying.
That's so weird.
That's spooky as hell.
Yeah, I really recommend the full program. The link is in the episode description. It's free to listen to and download. His final words, it's hovering and it's not an aircraft. I heard this when I was young, and like those words scared the shit out of me, man. I'm just gonna I want to just also mention the ABC version of it is like intertwined with an interview from Steve Roby, and it's really interesting. So I do really heavily recommend listening to it if you want a more in-depth look. So yeah, just a bit of a summary of what happened in case people didn't understand. 6:19, Valentich left Moorabbin Airport. At 7:06, Valentich first sights the large aircraft below him, only describing it as moving bright lights. At 7:07, the aircraft passes over Valentich. The aircraft, quote, "The aircraft has just passed over me at least 1,000 feet above." 7:08, the aircraft approaches from the east and appears to, quote, "be playing some kind of game." 7:10, the aircraft begins chasing Valentich. Quote, "It seems like it's chasing me. What I'm doing right now is orbiting, and the thing is just orbiting on top of me also. It's got a green light and sort of metallic like it's all shiny on the outside." Followed by, quote, "It's just vanished." 7:11, the mysterious aircraft returns, approaching from the southwest. 7:12, final words, Melbourne, the strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It's hovering, and it's not an aircraft."
Damn.
So, a search and rescue followed, a sea and air search that included ocean-going ship traffic, a Royal Australian Air Force Lockheed P-3 Orion aircraft, which if you know about planes might mean something to you, plus 8 civilian aircrafts and encompassed over 1,000 square miles. The search efforts stopped after 4 days, ending with the Department of Transport stating, "It seems likely the aircraft did not crash in the sea between Cape Otway and King Island." So I just want to say Cape Otway is Victoria's closest point to King Island. It's that's when James, when we did that Great Ocean road trip, that was that really heavy, like woodland kind of bit where we nearly ran out of petrol.
Yep, no, I remember that.
Yeah, I'm going to be mentioning Cape Otway a lot. There's a lot of it gets included a lot because it's kind of where the search started up to King Island. So an investigation by the Department of Transport could not determine what caused the incident, but stated that it was presumed fatal for Valentich. The only other potential clue, aside from the radio transcript, came in 1983, 5 years after Valentich went missing. Washed up ashore on Flinders Island, an island northeast of Tasmania, as I said earlier, was an engine cowl flap split into 3 parts. So that's kind of like that flap on the plane's it's like above the engine. It like opens up so the air can get in to cool it off. So it's just like a tiny little flap. So, and I didn't mention this earlier, but the plane that Valentich was flying in was a Cessna 182 aircraft. So when I say Cessna, I'm talking about his plane. The Bureau of Air Safety Investigation did confirm the part has been identified as having come from a Cessna 182 aircraft between a certain range of serial numbers, and Valentich's serial number did fit in that range. The Bureau of Air Safety Investigation also asked the Royal Australian Navy Research Laboratory how likely it would have been that the cow flap could have travelled to Flinders Island from the area the plane had disappeared. They said there were unusually strong subsurface currents in that period, which could have transported the debris that distance. So while they can't actually confirm that the cow flap is from his plane, it does match pretty well, and it could possibly have made it to Flinders Island. So what does this say? That the plane wreck is potentially in the Bass Strait somewhere? Still not a solid answer. It's about as much information as we've gotten initially, maybe, maybe not. Opinions have been divided on whether the corroded 30 centimeter long component belonged to this plane or not, with the Flinders airport manager at the time. He said that there were two other Cessnas of that type which had lost similar parts during takeoff prior to 1983, so it could belong to them. The Bureau of Air Safety Investigation also determined that the piece came off on impact or during flight, but did not come off from ocean corrosion. So, it didn't come unattached from a submerged wreck. Richard Valentich, Frederick's brother, has asked the aviation authorities if they still have the debris in storage somewhere so they can analyze it to see if it's spent about 5 years in salt water. But unfortunately, the Australian Transport Safety Bureau said the scrap has been lost, as they have no record of what happened to it or if it's been discarded. So where have we heard that before? Episode 2, we've already got 2 cases where the evidence has just been lost over time.
Yeah, it tends to happen with cold cases like that, where they just go like, oh, the evidence has been lost to time.
Yeah, it's like, how do you lose it?
I feel like it's just so important. I definitely have a record of where it would be. Like, especially for something that is as fascinating as this, that so many people, wonder about, Because it's a pretty big Australian mystery.
Aliens, man.
Yes, freaking aliens, bro. So there's no way to prove or disprove this debris from belonging to Valentich's Cessna. Aside from the potential 30 centimeter flap, no traces of Valentich or his plane have been found almost 42 years later. So there are pretty much 3 main theories. Valentich was mistaken and crashed in an accident. It was all a hoax by Valentich, and of course, it was legitimately a UFO intervention. And the Department of Transport have investigated all 3 theories, including the UFO one. So let's talk about points for and against UFO. Actually, we'll just start with points for the UFO, and then we'll get into against. But clearly, this premise explains itself. The theory is a UFO either caused Valentich to crash, or had abducted his aircraft / him, or destroyed what remained of it. What do we have to support this theory aside from Valentich's first-hand account? We have a couple of little witnesses and things here and there. So we've got numerous reports from members of the public. Dozens of people claim to have seen a fast-moving, brilliant white light in the sky that evening. Reports made on the evening before the missing pilot or his story was public knowledge. Some reports even coming in before the incident had occurred at all. The Mount Stromlo Observatory near Canberra did advise, however, that period was in the peak of a meteorite stream. So some of these bright lights people were seeing could have potentially come from the meteorite stream. Paul Norman from the Victorian UFO Research Society spent years interviewing people and investigating the case. Norman found 3 separate witnesses who claimed to have seen an airplane descending at a steep angle with a much larger object with green lights flying just above it. Based on the trajectory of the claims, Norman concluded the plane would have crashed into the sea southeast of Cape Marengo between 5 kilometers and 20 kilometers offshore. He wrote, "The nature of the large object with green lights that accompanied the airplane during its steep descent remains to be identified. The accounts are significant due to the green light that Valentich mentioned in the radio transmission." Interestingly enough, Steve Roby says he was working air traffic control again 5 days later. Roby received another transmission from a different pilot flying a different light aircraft. He reported being passed 3 times by an intensely bright light traveling at jet speed, which came close enough that the pilot had to land his aircraft. Roby recalls jokingly saying to his co-worker, "Here we go again." There is also a very odd photo that was allegedly taken on the day by a man named Ray Manifold. It supposedly shows a fast-moving object exiting the water near Cape Otway Lighthouse. So again, this is Cape Otway, James, where we were. You can see the photo online if you Google Cape Otway Lighthouse UFO or something along those words. If you can't find it, again, the man who took the photo's name is Roy Manifold. So I'm sure some kind of...
We may also put a photo on our Insta as well.
Yeah, we will have a photo on Instagram if you can't find it as well, which you should go follow. So UFO writer Jerome Clark argues that it's a bona fide unknown flying object of moderate dimensions, apparently surrounded by a cloud-like vapor/exhaust residue. Unfortunately, like most photography of the paranormal, it's not clear at all, and no one can objectively determine what the fuck it is. So I've seen the photo, obviously. It's like ocean. In the top right corner, you've got this weird blurry object, almost like someone spilt their marinara sauce on the corner, and it's in black and white. Yeah, if you boys check out the photos, tell me what you think.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah, there's like colored recreations of it, but I'm pretty sure the original is black and white, so...
I see this reddish
Just looks
one.
like a smudge on the lens.
Yeah.
What's that?
It just looks like a smudge on the lens.
It does, doesn't it? I don't know. It's if legitimate, it's pretty weird, but I can't tell you if it's legitimate or not. Yeah, supposedly taken on the exact same day. There's one other potential lead for this theory, and if true, it's a biggie. This was published in the Herald Sun. For listeners who aren't from Australia, it's kind of like our main newspaper at this point. I feel like it's the main newspaper.
I mean, I can't name another one.
I can name other ones, but Herald Sun's just, I guess, the general newspaper. And it is based in Melbourne. And what they published is that UFO investigators are trying to identify a farmer from South Australia who claimed to have witnessed a 30-meter craft hovering over his property the morning after Valentich went missing. And what was stuck to the side of this aircraft? A Cessna airplane leaking oil. The farmer even scratched the plane's registration number into his tractor, but never came forward with the information officially because the few friends he told ridiculed him. So there's kind of been, within the UFO community, they've been trying to figure out who this farmer is, if he's even still alive. So, because he's yet to be identified. So, did extraterrestrials abduct or destroy the Cessna in 1978? I don't know. What I do know is we
George
still need...
Simpson.
Who?
George Simpson, let's ask him.
Right.
I was reading the exact same Herald Sun newspaper as you were going
reading
through
it?
that. Yeah. And this is the next section was just George Simpson. So I'm like, George Simpson.
So I don't know if extraterrestrials abducted or destroyed the Cessna, but I do know we still need to get into 2 other theories. So this one is a popular one among skeptics, and it's a proposed explanation that could have been that Valentich became disoriented and was flying upside down, and that the lights he was seeing was his own reflected in the water.
Huh.
Then he could have then crashed into the water. However, the model Cessna he was piloting could not have flown inverted for long, as it has a gravity feed fuel system, which I gather from the words used in it means it relies on gravity for the fuel to drip into the engine. So if it's upside down, it would have cut out very quickly. In 2013, the radio transcripts and other data were reviewed by astronomer and retired U.S. Air Force pilot James McGaha and author Joe Nickell. They proposed Valentich was deceived by the illusion of a tilted horizon, and when he attempted to compensate, he inadvertently put his aircraft into a graveyard spiral.
Huh.
What's a graveyard spiral, Bran? Well, I'm going to tell you, and it's fucked. Don't listen if you're already afraid of flying. This isn't going to help. There are heaps of sensory illusions in aviation. Since humans are adapted for navigating on the ground, there are a whole heap of biological reasoning I'm not going to get into, but it's in the realm of what you may feel like when you feel like you're still spinning after you stop spinning. I figured it's illusions played on you biologically. It's extremely dangerous for a pilot to navigate with senses alone, hence why there's so many dials and information presented in the cockpit for them to rely on instead of just what they think. And a graveyard spiral is just one of many common illusions. It's when a pilot mistakenly believes that their wings level in flight, but are actually on a banking turn. The pilot will then notice the altimeter says they're descending. They'll try to correct this by pulling up, thinking that the plane is straight wing level, but doing this in a banking turn, it'll actually tighten the radius of the turn and the rate of descent will quicken.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I don't like that. I've actually never been on a plane. Don't like it.
Nah? Ben?
I just...
I mean, it sounds like fun. Book me a ticket.
One of the most famous cases of a graveyard spiral was the crash that killed John F. Kennedy Jr. in 1999. So back to Valentich. If this was the case, the G-forces of the tightening spiral would result in the rough idling that Valentich reported. McGaha and Nickell also propose that the stationary overhead lights that Valentich reported were probably Venus, Mars, and Mercury, along with the bright star Antares, which they say would have behaved in a way consistent with Valentich's description. If you want to spook yourself from flying even more, there are plenty of other sensory illusions that pilots have to be aware of, and I suggest looking into the others to make yourself more uncomfortable. Or save the information and read about it next time you're bored on a flight. Finally, the possibility of Valentich calling Melbourne air traffic control as a hoax before committing suicide or performing a controlled landing and faking his own death / maybe accidentally dying. Like all theories, there's evidence that both support and contradict this. So let's start with the supporting evidence. First of all, that Valentich was allegedly extremely interested in UFOs and was already worried about being attacked by them. As I said, huge ammunition for skeptics. He stated to his girlfriend Rhonda only 6 days prior to the incident while driving through the Dandenongs, "If a UFO landed in front of me right now, I would go in it, but never without you." There's another unanswered question that adds fuel to this skeptic fire. Why was Valentich flying to King Island? He had given 2 separate reasons. He told family he was picking up crayfish. He told Moorabbin Control he was collecting passengers. And or maybe the crayfish are the passengers. And he doesn't discriminate.
The exact same thing. That whole voice recording thing going back and forth between the thing we did. Can you listen to that whole thing? Somewhere, or was it just the end of you sent us?
The transcript. So supposedly it aired on radio once in Melbourne, but I can't find it anywhere. And I know there's UFO enthusiasts out there who are trying to find it as well. So it's not just around to listen to, though it has been aired before. And obviously it would be on record at the Department of Transport and wherever else. So it does exist, but it's I can't find it. No one seems to be able to find it. So you can find accurate recreations, but
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it would have to do with like the tone of his voice.
I'll get into the tone of his voice.
Okay.
So as I said, he told family he was collecting crayfish. He told the airport that he was collecting passengers, but there were no crayfish at King Island at this time, and no one ever identified as waiting for him to pick them up.
Mm.
So why was he flying to King Island?
He had a Tinder date. It was important.
Tinder date, okay.
With
He
Ron
didn't want to tell his girlfriend.
Fair enough.
He was dating a girl named Rhonda, come on.
Contradicting evidence. First of all, his family and friends, the people close to him, people who knew him well, though those to this day absolutely reject the idea he would fake his own death or commit suicide, including his doctors. They also don't believe he would mistake stars or meteorites or his own lights on the Cape, or his own lights or the Cape Otway Lighthouse for anything other than what they were. Like, he was semi-experienced. He's done over 150 hours of flying. And yeah, as I said, he would have obviously spoken to a lot of doctors if he was trying to get into the Royal Australian Air Force. You'd have to pass a lot of tests and stuff. And yes, he was interested in UFOs, but it was 1978. In the last year, both the original Star Wars and Close Encounters of the Third Kind were out, and there was an intense community interest in UFOs and the potential of alien life. His brother Richard said that he wasn't any more into them as anyone else was. He was recently a bit more interested in them because he was allowed to see the Royal Australian Air Force's confidential files on UFOs at East Sale and Laverton. East Sale, by the way, was the place where the second pilot Roby spoke to, who had to land his plane. He was flying over there at the same time. It's literally nothing. I just wanted to mention that. He couldn't discuss what was on the confidential files with family because they were obviously confidential. And another thing was Frederick's mother had reportedly seen a UFO earlier in that year, so he was right to be a little interested. And I think UFO... people who are into UFOs and stuff would probably agree that it seems to be when people experience UFOs and stuff, it's they get it multiple times. You know what I mean? It's like the same person will cop it over and over again. So
yeah, they become a UFO's favorite abductee.
Yeah, that's right. It's VIP. So that kind of lines up with like the UFO investigation theories, where they're like, oh, but if it was near his mother and this, then maybe it was following him. If he was intensely paranoid, maybe, well, not intensely paranoid, but if he was like a little paranoid, maybe it was because he had seen one himself, never told anyone.
Well, we finally got confirmation this year that UFOs actually exist and have been accounted for, and no one gave a shit.
Yeah, because it was the least crazy thing to happen in 2020.
I think it was the American Air Force. It was definitely the American military came out with, yes, UFOs are real. We don't know what they are. Leave us alone. And
everyone went, cool.
I'm trying not to, die. Literally anything that's happening this year.
Yeah, basically, it's like World War III, bushfires, Corona.
But we should probably get back to this at a less crazy time.
Yeah.
But by then, everyone will forget. They'll be like, oh, yeah, but that was what, ages ago? That was back in 2020 they announced that. Who cares anymore? It's like, yeah, but no one discussed it in 2020. So, yeah, we're discussing it now. There you go. It's big news. UFOs confirmed. What are they? Military don't know.
But they're
And see,
real.
that could have been our chance for aliens to come down and visit us, but they just went, oh, they don't care about us, and then went on their way.
I think Ben's an alien.
Ben's an alien. Wouldn't be surprised. We'll
No, I'm
definitely.
a lizard person, mate.
Someone should do a piece on Men in Black at some point. And see, I reckon Ben's
The
a Men in
movie?
Black. No,
This movie's my childhood.
no, not the
I
movie.
reckon.
I am Will Smith.
Oh, I'm sorry. What happened to you, Will?
Oh, fucking
August is coming
entanglements,
up.
bro. Oh,
What was I just saying? 2020. Oh yeah, they came down. They're like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. Dumps the fire. they ditched. No, but like it was. The files were like from decades ago. It wasn't 2020. Just like they just declassified a bunch of things. Like, oh look, we don't know what it is. No point in hiding it from you guys. We didn't know what the fuck's going on either. Anyway, both NASA. This is getting to what you brought up earlier, James. Both NASA analysts and the Department of Transport have analyzed the radio transmission's audio. NASA having said they found Valentich to be under genuine stress. Department of Transport saying Valentich appeared to remain matter of fact. Roby himself said nothing to him came across as a hoax or disorientation or loss of bearings, and that Valentich sounded very genuine. So, what do people like Roby and the other people involved think? Well, Roby himself does not believe it was a hoax. He also doesn't believe Valentich became disoriented and crashed into the sea. After the extensive search, something would have been found, oil or something. Roby doesn't believe the debris found on the other side of the Bass Strait is Valentich's and has completely discounted it as it was found way too far away from the scene. So I got a notification and got distracted. He thinks it might be possible that Valentich lost radio contact and crashed somewhere remote in the Otway Ranges. And as James and I have driven through it, it's very foresty and heavy woodland. It is very possible it did crash somewhere remote there and hasn't been discovered yet. I'm sure there's heaps of shit in there that hasn't been discovered yet.
Everything there kind of looks the same, and it's just a very boring drive.
And you'd think we would have seen it
you
all
could
because we
get
were
lost
stuck
in
in
that.
roadworks for like so long. We were driving at like 10 kilometers an hour for ages.
Stuck behind a truck on a single lane road. That was,
Just like heavily watching
fun.
how much petrol I have because we are so in the red. And we're just like, we just need to find a petrol station as soon as
We didn't
possible.
have we didn't have internet connection to see where the next town was. It was kind of like, follow the road, we'll get there.
Yeah, just keep going. Hope it doesn't go badly. It was a time and a half. Anyway, yeah. So he thinks it's possible that he might have ended up in the Otway Ranges and the plane hasn't been found to this day. But he doesn't believe that he crashed into the ocean. He genuinely thinks it is possible that a UFO, thinks it's possible. I wrote this wrong. Anyway, he genuinely thinks it's possible that a UFO, extraterrestrial or not, was involved that day and either took the plane or interfered in some way to make sure the wreck would not be found. Roby also said after getting to know the Valentich family over the few months after, he found them to be decent and sensible people. Frederick's brother Richard states there was no family fixation on UFOs and that has been greatly exaggerated to fit the narrative that this was a hoax. Richard does find the UFO abduction theory to be far-fetched, but does believe that his brother encountered something unidentified that did cause him to crash, though he doesn't believe it to be extraterrestrial. Richard also said that his brother would have been accurately and honestly describing what he saw, whatever it was. Valentich's mother, Alberta, doesn't know what happened to him, but still hopes he's alive today and hopes to one day get an answer, as I'm sure the entire family does. And even just the general public of Australia. We want to know what happened to him and genuinely hope he's still alive, you know? His father, Guido, who passed away in 2000, also held hope that his son was alive somewhere out in the galaxy, experiencing something no one else on Earth has. So, I don't know, what do you boys reckon happened?
I think he's still alive with that Tinder date.
Gonna have to agree with Ben here.
Okay.
Yeah, Rhonda, man.
He ran away. He went, I'm tired of Rhonda. I'm going to go fuck a crayfish. Swiped right on Tinder. And then he now has millions of crayfish babies.
Okay, yeah. The crab people living underground.
Crab people.
Crab people confirmed in Australia.
He's the father.
No, but
Tasmania is
legit,
weird,
yeah.
man.
It's just
that's
he
not
went
the
to
worst thing to
Tasmania.
happen in 2020.
It's not the worst thing to happen in Tasmania.
Technically, they're aliens to us, man.
Again, for people who don't get Australian shit, Tasmania's kind of the ones we rip on for being like, you know, the rednecks of Australia, I guess. Like the backwoods hillbillies. But nah, like legit, what do you guys actually reckon happened? What do you think's most likely?
To be honest, someone tried to call me during that, and I missed like half of it.
Oh.
Even with my phone on Do Not
Wow,
Disturb, I still got a
rude.
fucking phone call. So awesome for me.
You should listen to the podcast.
Yeah, you should listen to the Graveyard Broadcast episode too.
Yeah. Honestly, like, the cooler option is to say, like, oh, yeah, aliens. But, like, I'm just going to say that, like, even with all that experience behind him, that at the end of the day, it was just illusions of his eyes, and then he got caught in that death spin thing and he crashed.
Oh, you're talking about the whole thing in general. Yeah, no, I kind of think it was aliens. I don't know. Like, they're obviously
I
real.
kind of lean towards it was aliens in this point, just because there was an extensive search done of the ocean and found no evidence to suggest a plane had crashed anywhere.
And then, like, the piece...
They also couldn't find Amelia Earhart, so...
True. Maybe she was abducted by aliens too, Ben.
You never know, Ben.
Don't use that argument
She was
against
the
me.
Tinder date. It's coming full circle.
Oh, yeah? It's like, what, 100 years later? I don't know when she existed. Maybe 50 years later?
Neither do I.
Yeah.
It's...
I kind of lean...
You can tell that we researched everything in this podcast.
Yeah, I research what I want to say, and then they just come in and go, "Oh, so what about this?" And I'm like,
Yeah, no, I reckon...
You want
aliens
to
at one
correct
point,
us? Tweet us.
Like, you don't just lose some evidence like that and it's like, oh, it's gone missing.
I don't know. People are pretty damn unreliable. Like,
I mean,
you
yeah,
call
people
them
are
the
stupid.
authorities,
Oh, yeah.
but they're pretty damn stupid.
It seems like a...
They're the type that will go like, oh, where the hell did I put my glasses? And it's like on top of their head.
done that too many times. So I can't laugh at that one.
Anyway, Frederick's dad Guido, every year on the anniversary of the incident, would go to the Cape Otway Lighthouse, where a memorial was erected. I've mentioned Cape Otway a bunch of times, so yeah, that's where the memorial ended up. The closest point to King Island overlooks the ocean where he went missing. What was it? Oh yeah. But yeah, almost every year, Frederick's family continued to go to the lighthouse and his memorial, look out at the sea, not knowing the answer to this mystery. Do the answers lie deep beneath the waters of the Bass Strait, or are the answers somewhere else, much further away, hidden out of our reach in the galaxy above? And yeah, that's all I have to say on the matter. Pretty spooky.
Woo!
Thanks, James. I appreciate that. He
Yeah,
represents
bro.
the listeners, so that's the listeners clapping.
Yeah. If you guys don't clap, get out.
Don't get out, please stay. We need you to listen.
But just subscribe, follow, please stay. It's...
Cool.
We're one of those people that claps at the end of the movies.
Hey, all those people at the movies did a good job.
That joke from the end of the Simpsons movie.
Yeah, grip number 2.
where it's like,
Give it up to
in the
grip
end
number
credits,
2.
it's like, come on, Dad, let's go. And he's like, wait, these people worked hard in this movie, and all they do is ask that we memorize their names. All right. Yeah, take it away, Ben.
All right. So, today I'm going to talk about bunyips.
What's a
Cue
bunyip,
circus
Ben?
music. No, I'm kidding. So a bunyip is a large mythical creature from Australian Aboriginal mythology. It's said
Wait,
to
hold. My
lurk
mom's
in
trying to walk
swamps.
through. Just go. Continue.
Leave that in.
Yeah.
So the bunyip is a large mythical creature from Australian Aboriginal mythology, and it's said to lurk in swamps, billabongs, creeks, riverbeds, and waterholes. So it's mostly a water-based creature.
What's a billabong,
So
Ben?
the word, it's like a lake. It's like a creek.
What's a creek,
Pond.
Ben?
It's a billabong.
What's a billabong, Ben?
You know, it's like the what was that song called? The Old Mate by the Billabong. What was it?
I know. Sing it for us, Ben.
I don't have that good of a singing voice.
Oh,
Brandon's the
don't-
one with the music
Don't
career.
lie, Ben.
We hear Ben sing all the time.
So
Don't be embarrassed.
What's a billabong,
the
Ben?
word bunyip mostly
King of
What's the
Sing
song,
Star.
Ben?
High School Musical edition.
the place I'm gonna drown you, James.
All right, continue.
Oh, he's going to kill me just like episode one.
The word. Yeah, then I'll cut off your hand, make a hand of glory.
No, we need to cut off your hand because you'd be the murderer.
True.
Get rewarded with that
Either way,
bile.
Do
Tune
a
in
good
to
deal.
watch the one remaining member. Try out the hand of glory.
Yeah, watch Brandon talk to himself for an hour and a half.
Elena.
The word bunyip. Cat's back. The word bunyip most likely came from the Aboriginal word for an amphibious spiritual being, but can also be translated today as meaning devil or evil spirit. So, the most tricky thing about bunyips is that there are so many accounts of what the creature actually looks like.
What does it look like, Ben?
Depending on what tribe in Australia you actually talk to, every single tribe has a different account of what the creature looks like, what it does, if it's a peaceful spirit, if it's a harmful spirit. Like, there's just way too many accounts out there. So the word bunyip first appeared in news in the Sydney Gazette in 1812, where it was used by James Ives to describe a large black animal similar to a seal with a terrible voice which creates terror. And this booming voice was said to be used to warn natives of nearby waterbeds, but also gave the creature the ability to lure its victims towards it in sort of this hypnosis.
So far, you're just describing Christina Aguilera.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
So Hollaback Girl is what I'm talking about. According to Aboriginal Dreamtime lore, which is sort of like Australia's myth type stuff, it says the bunyip once broke the rainbow serpent's greatest law by eating one of its totem animals. After that, he was banished and transformed into an evil spirit that lured tribesmen and their animals to the water to eat. So, for those who aren't familiar with Australian Dreamtime, the rainbow serpent is sort of like the creative god of water, basically. So it's like it was said to move across Australian land, creating all these hills, and like it was responsible for like rainfall and monsoons and lakes and billabongs.
It's Australians' version of Poseidon, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, basically, Dreamtime is like it's like a ancient Aboriginal storytelling. So it's where they come up with their folklore and pass it on through the generations
Yeah.
and stuff.
There's some interesting tales. Like, we'll talk about them in future episodes, but like, look it up if you want to. They're really interesting.
Or just wait for us to talk about them.
Yeah, or
Like our
tune in
Amelia
and
Earhart
subscribe and
episode where we
stick
discuss
around,
what time
and-
she disappeared. Don't look
where
it
we
up.
discuss her Tinder date with
Rhonda!
Rhonda. If you are unfamiliar with the Australian ad of Rhonda looking like a sunrise,
Google it.
So most typically the bunyip has been described by native as amphibious, nocturnal, and inhabiting lakes and rivers. they can swim swiftly with fins or flippers, and they have a loud roaring call, and they feed on crayfish. Some legends portray them
Crayfish?
as
Have we come full circle?
as bloodthirsty. Yeah. It's that dude was turned into a bunyip. It's all this time, aliens are bunyips.
Bet you didn't see that coming. Plot twist. Mind blown.
Thank you for listening to our episode. Continue.
What's a billabong, Ben?
So some legends, shut the fuck up, James. Some legends portray them as bloodthirsty predators that prey on humans, particularly women and children. And they typically are said to lay eggs and inhabit platypus nests.
What's a platypus, Ben?
Scientists can't even tell you what a platypus is. Is it a duck? Is it a beaver? Is it a bunyip? We have no idea.
You won't believe what science has created.
Tune in to next episode where we discuss what the hell a platypus is.
I'm asking you now,
Reminds
Ben.
me. I saw this post the other day on Reddit where it was just like some people blocking an intersection at peak hour for some protest, and a dude gets out of his car and just punches one of them. And the first comment I saw was just someone saying, "You won't believe this one trick to stop protesters." One simple trick.
So, surprisingly, with all of these descriptions, is that the most popular description is that it looks like an enormous starfish.
What's a starfish, Ben?
All right, the joke's getting
It's
old now.
Patrick from SpongeBob. However, according to other tribes, they claim it looks like a snake with a beard, while others argue it has a dog-like face or a crocodile-like head with dark fur, a horse-like tail, flippers, walrus-like tusks, and a duck-like bill. So yeah, a platypus, if I've ever heard one.
Now you guys know. That's what a platypus is.
It's nature's abomination.
Yeah.
When too many animals got horny.
So, because of these descriptions of the bunyip vary, about 60% of sightings claim the creature resembles seals or swimming dogs, with another 20% describe it as a long-necked creature with a small head. The remaining descriptions are ambiguous and they just are completely different than anything that came before it. So, the seal like swimming dog variety is most often described as being between 4 and 6 feet long with a shaggy black and brown coat. And according to reports, these types of bunyips have round heads resembling bulldogs, prominent ears, no tail, and whiskers like a seal or an otter. The long-necked variety is allegedly between 5 to 15 feet long, and it's said to have black or brown fur, large ears, small tusks, and a horse-like head, or similar to like an emu similar to an emu with an elongated maned neck, about 3 feet long.
You got there, Ben.
Oh,
Proud
sorry,
of you.
Bunyips got my
What does
brains.
elongated mean, Ben?
Means long, James.
Thank you, Ben. Brandon's drawing a smiley face.
Yeah, Brandon's lost his camera. So these 3 feet long necks hold many flat folds of skin, and they these type of bunions also have a horse-like tail at their end. Welcome back, Brandon.
Just found out I could do that.
I saw him looking at the screen and then it just disappeared. And yeah,
Yeah.
now I'm looking funky.
Sorry.
So, according to the first ever description of the bunyip, the creature would lay pale blue eggs of immense size, possessed deadly claws and powerful hind legs, with a brightly coloured chest and a bill with serrated projections like the bones of a stingray. So because of its often compared with an emu-like head, these characteristics would be compared to the then undiscovered Australian cassowary. So people just went like, oh yeah, because we hadn't discovered this type of emu, people thought that was a bunyip. People also suggested that they could have been migrating seals or dugongs that have travelled inland from the sea because we had then not shut off our river bends.
James is playing with all the fun effects on his face in the group, in the video chat. So,
All right. No more.
just saw
Alright.
Ben starting to like stutter on his words because he's getting distracted by James's giant face.
All right, continue, Ben. Sorry about that.
In Robert Smythe's book, Aborigines of Victoria, published in 1878, he concluded that at the end of the day, not much is known respecting the creature's form, covering, or habits, as witnesses appear to have been in such dread that they were unable to properly take notes about what the creature actually looked like. So at the end of the day, anything could be true.
Yeah, it's just, is it a starfish?
Which is why...
Is it an emu? Is it a platypus?
Yeah, which is why so many people believed when, in January of 1846, a skull was found in Murrumbidgee.
Yep.
Ooh, he tried.
That's not how you say that name. That's as good as you're going to get, listeners. Look it up.
We're so bad at this, we can't even say places that are from our own country.
Oh.
Like,
This is difficult. So I'm just going to say near the Murray River. And it was actually placed in an Australian museum in Sydney and labelled as a bunyip skull.
damn.
So scientists said, this is definitively a bunyip skull. This exists. We are putting it in our museum. And then...
When was this?
that skull was later in 1846.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Back when people were smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, the smartest generation. But it was later to be proven to be the skull of a disfigured and malformed calf. So a cow.
I was about to scream, what's
And
a
they
calf
did a
bone?
bunch
And you
of-
just said cow, and I'm like, crap.
It's veal.
Delicious is what it is. So yeah, scientists did a full like facial reconstruction to see what it would have looked like, and then at the end of the day, it was a cow. So legends of the bunyip, there are many of them. One story is a woman fetching water late at night from a nearby creek, only to be met with two bright glowing eyes looking back at her from beneath the water as the bunyip comes up and rips off both her arms. When the bunyip was hunted down, all that was left of the scene was a small feather with blood all over it.
Yeah.
So they were unable to track it down.
So a woman,
According to
did
another legend-
actually lose her arms. Is that a fact or just a story?
Well, that's a legend.
That's a legend, okay.
That's a legend. So there's no proof that that's what actually happened, but most people claim the event actually took place, but whether it was a bunyip or not is heavily debated.
Right.
What do you think, Ben?
I think she did it to herself.
Yeah, she cut off
You
one
know,
arm,
as you
then
do.
she turned around and cut off the
Yeah.
other arm.
Yep. People are very trained with their feet, and then she just planted a feather and went, "This is going to be a bunyip."
No, crayfish chopped it off, that's it.
Just a bunch of
But no,
crayfish.
according to at the end of the day, crayfish are to blame for everything.
Yeah. Everything that's wrong with
But
Australia.
yeah, killing a bunyip was often considered very taboo, and a tale is told about a sea captain whose ship was halted in place by a bunyip, and despite warnings from his crew trying to warn him against killing the creature or else he will die a most horrible death, the captain proceeded to kill it anyway. as you do, because you know best. When they got back to land, however, the captain got very sick, his body erupting in oozing blisters, and he died within 2 weeks of returning back home.
Ooh.
So if you ever encounter a bunyip, run the fuck away.
100%. And Ben, I wanted to ask you, judging by like all the information you've collected, what do you think it looks like?
Yeah. Honestly, I would have to go with the like amphibious, similar to a seal type appearance of like it has a bunch of like claws, big hind legs, the black fur coat, similar to like a swimming dog type of thing. That's probably what I would go with like the tusks.
Okay. I'm just trying to...
I wouldn't say a starfish.
No, I wouldn't. Oh, has Brandon got a picture?
I got a book on mythical
Brandon
creatures.
has a book.
And this is supposedly what it claims a yowie looks like, which is a type of bunyip.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Which more looks like an orangutan with tucks.
Pretty much. I thought it was a monkey.
Well, that's how I've always
Yeah,
seen them
pretty
as.
much.
They're meant to be... Well, yowies are completely... I guess they're a subcategory, but there's a lot behind them. Did you research yowies or should...
Well, like, a lot of... we can talk about it.
Okay. Well,
But, like, I just want to say very quickly, like, a lot of the legends of a bunyip are more in the amphibian realm, and most commonly today describe them as large frog-like men who stand on, like, 2 hind legs. And, yeah, so they're more like humanoid frogs today.
I don't like that.
Yeah, what's a yowie, Brandon?
subcategory of bunyip. I'm more informed on yowies. Basically, the idea is that they were here before Aboriginals were. Aboriginals came here. Yowies kind of like hid in the tree. Yowies apparently have like backwards feet, so when they walk, their tracks make it look like they were walking in the opposite direction.
Fun.
Yeah, you can find a lot of interesting information on them, but the idea is basically they were here before Aboriginals were, and there's like statues dedicated to them and stuff around, and they're part of just Aboriginal folklore. This book has 3 little did you knows. I can read them if you want.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Did you know, when a team of Royal Air Force surveyors landed by helicopter on a remote mountain peak in 1971, they found fresh yowie tracks in the mud? Did you know, in places where the creature's prey has become scarce, people have seen yowie scavenging on roadsides for animals killed by passing traffic? And did you know, yowies are immensely strong, and one startled individual even managed to overturn a moving jeep. That's
Jeez.
all. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
How
I'm sorry, I
menacing.
didn't want to hijack your segment like that. I just had that sitting there.
No, that was fine. I've actually talked about all I wanted to talk about with bunyips today.
Oh,
So,
discussion.
you got any more?
I can see what else the page has. There's this sad picture that when I was a kid made me real sad. It's like a dog barking at a yowie, and then it cuts and there's just like a bloody collar. A woman screaming.
Aww.
Like
Poor
scarred me for
doggo.
life. Oh,
Can you guys see my background at the moment?
yeah,
We can.
How good is it?
it's not bad. It's not bad. Like you're like in a galaxy. There's little cats flying around.
That's where the pilot ended up, just in space with floating cats.
They're what I know more about. I don't really know much about bunyips in general. So thanks for enlightening me, Ben.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting because it's sort of like Australia's most known about like mythical creature, apart from drop bears, which are an actual thing if you ever come to Australia. And if you're from Australia, shut up.
I've never heard of any of this.
Yowies are like, I don't know, they're like the prime Australian folklore I always think of. Like that was going to be my suggestion for you if you didn't come up with a topic. I was like, yeah, they're pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like our version of Bigfoot, except instead of just one, it's a whole species. Or I guess some people believe Bigfoot is part of a larger species, but still, it's pretty cool.
He's
and
real.
it ties
Still,
back
wouldn't
to...
want to encounter one walking out like in the outback where it's like the how is just like what signifies like, oh, there's water nearby, but also there's danger nearby.
Yeah.
And it's like most people just suggest like, oh, because they're from water, they're most commonly compared to like seals and dugongs and whatever. And it's like because they would have just traveled in through the riverbeds from the ocean. And it's like dugongs are what most people think created the whole like mermaid mythology of like sailors mistook dugongs for mermaids because they'd dive down to the ground and they'd get seaweed caught on their heads.
What's a dugong, Ben?
So yeah, it's a large mammal similar to like it's like a crossbreed between like a whale and a seal. It's ugly as hell.
Thanks for your education, Ben.
All right,
That's
so
all right.
here's a video on YouTube that supposedly the guy who filmed claims has a yowie howl in it. We'll see. But it also claims it shows his dogs reacting to the howls. I'm just going to play because apparently at the 15-second mark you can hear something in the distance. So let's see if we can hear it. I mean, yeah, there's a noise there. You guys probably couldn't hear it, but there was a noise there, but it's probably some kind of cockatoo or something. Those birds sound whack.
No, I heard it.
I mean, there's a lot of Australian animals that make noise at night.
Yeah. Yeah. I think today's episode's been quite successful. And I guess next week I'm going to be sitting it out. So I'm going to announce to you guys what the theme is for you guys. So episode 3, the theme for you boys, kids are scary.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, and they are.
Yeah.
They freak me the fuck out. This will be easy.
Lots of potential for you guys to decide upon what to talk about. So, yeah. Social medias, Ben?
Yeah, so our social media for the Graveyard Broadcast is on Twitter and Instagram. You can just follow us at Grave Broadcast. On YouTube, we are The Graveyard Broadcast. You can also email us at thegraveyardbroadcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us for 3:30 with our Twitter at HP3Official and on Facebook at 3:30.
Cool. So, yeah, once again, if you want to email us with any questions, your own stories, spooky stories yourself, or anything, Ben, can you give us the email again for the Graveyard Broadcast?
Yeah, just email us at thegraveyardbroadcast@gmail.com.
Graveyardbroadcast@gmail.com. It'll also be in the episode description. All these links will be. So yeah, also...
Yeah, follow us on YouTube where we'll be posting these episodes with a visual format as well. Follow us on Instagram where any visuals we bring up, like the photo of the lighthouse and what some drawings of a bunyip actually looks like, will be posted to our Instagram. And then any links to somewhere will be posted on our Twitter as well.
Yeah, so please...
So go follow all of those places.
Please subscribe to our podcast wherever you're listening, or follow or favorite or whatever the platform you're listening on has. We'd also appreciate if you can give us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts, even if you don't use that to listen. It's a great benefit for podcasts. So if you've got access to the app, please go in, give us 5 stars. Or if you don't think we earn 5 stars, at least write us up a review so we get some kind of...
Please give us a pity 5 stars.
Yeah, really it should be 5 stars because I think we're pretty perfect. Also, recommend us to your friends if you think they'd be interested. I make music solo as Bran Reid, and I also make music under the name Deck of Hearts. I'm going to play a sample in the outro. Please go check out more music if you like what you hear, and the link to that will also be in the episode description. I'm Bran Reid, and joining me...
James.
I'm Ben.
And, yeah, stay spooky, my dudes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Adios. Good evening.
Hold to God.